Let's go to Eugene in North Carolina, Charlotte to be exact. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Eugene.
Hi, how are you? First of all, let me say, Karen, it's great to be on the show. I've tried over the years to call in and have not made it. And it's great to be on this one because it's a pet peeve of mine. I believe strongly that a child should live for whatever reason. If God made it possible for that child to make it to a mother, that child should have a chance to live. I firmly believe that.
Okay. Even rape and incest.
Well, I'm human. I mean, if that happened to my daughter, I would want something done about it. But
what would that something be, Eugene? What would you want done about that?
Well, maybe she could make up her own mind. But as I logically think, I still think it would be right for the child to be born.
Okay. Now, when your uterus is shedding every month and you're on your period, Eugene, and it tells you that good, you're not pregnant, but if you miss your period, Eugene, 1 month, and you are pregnant and you were raped, unfortunately, not your daughter, you, and you don't have the means to support a child, you never probably want to have children, and somebody did this to you, you're okay with going through the 9 months and pushing that child out of your uterus?
I fully understand what you're saying, but in my mind, and I have 2 sons myself.
Yeah, but your mind has a Y chromosome. So I feel like I cannot tell you how to be a man and what you should do with your penis and your prostate and your testicles. I feel like that is not something I can tell you to do. And what is right for your penis, your testicles, I can't tell you. But it seems interesting to me that a lot of men, 5 of whom, 4 of the 5 who are apparently going to overturn Roe v. Wade. And it's interesting because the people who put Roe v. Wade into place were all men as well. It's interesting, Eugene. I respect what you're feeling, but these are feelings. You're a Christian. I'm assuming you're a Christian, right? Because you brought God into this. Okay. Where is it that God would want anyone's free will to be usurped? Where's that in the Bible?
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
It's not.
But can I?
Yeah, finish.
Very quick story. When I was a teenager, 16 years old, young and stupid, I got a girl pregnant. A little bit later, got in an argument with her brother, who told me that their mother forced his sister to have an abortion. It was the most hurtful, disrespectful thing to me that had ever happened, even to this point in my life.
Okay.
Because I should have had a chance to have some say in the life of my own child, even though I was 16 years old.
Okay. All right. Again, that's personal. That's a feeling, but that's not your body. It's not your body. Interesting. Go ahead, Pam. Pam. I want to take Amir and Murray, but it is so, and this is it makes the GOP so smart to do this because
it's not. I mean, Karen, the issue for your caller here is that he thinks that the state stepping in is justified because of how he feels about this. And Roe v. Wade, the issue in Roe v. Wade is not whether the state is justified in stepping in with respect to birth and babies. It is a question of whether the state is justified in stepping into whatever the Sam Hill it wants to, because there's no federal law that stops them from doing that. So when you said, well, can I step in and tell you what to do with your testicles or your penis or your prostate or whatever, you asked a very salient question, because what the Supreme Court has decided is that if you live in a state that thinks that penis piercing is offensive, they can outlaw that because you don't have a constitutional right to autonomy over your own body. You don't have a constitutional right to anything that the founding fathers gave to white men. Right? Because that's what Alito said. Alito said, well, if it's not a long-standing history, right? Who would have rights over long-standing history? Was it you? It wasn't your caller. If he sounds like a black man to me, he didn't have long-standing rights. I sure didn't have long-standing rights. You don't have historical long-standing rights. So I think people are playing on the GOP's field every time they make Roe v. Wade about abortion. Roe v. Wade was raised in the context of the right of abortion when the question was about personal autonomy. So Roe v. Wade created a federal right, a federal constitutional right as a part of being a citizen of the United States, of autonomy over yourself and your personal life decisions. And what the Supreme Court is saying here is, no. We let the states decide which rights you have and which rights you do not have over your own personal autonomy. And that includes who you marry, that includes how you raise your children, that includes what color you dye your hair, how sexy clothes you wear. All of those choices are the personal life decision choices that allow us to live, be free, be happy, and express ourselves. How many kids we have is just one of those decisions, but there are many others. And what the court is saying is that, no, Alabama gets to decide that for you. Arkansas can decide that for you because the state has that right, not you. And that is morally, intellectually, and in every other way twisted. It comes from the perspective of a white man who would never worry about a state trespassing on his rights.
And long-standing, we're talking about wealthy white landowners.
Absolutely.
Those are the founding fathers who were the first and only people to have the right to vote for a long period of time.
Landed Christian white men. That's who had rights. And so, like I said, Roe v. Wade always, in my mind, was a misnomer as being called an abortion decision. It wasn't an abortion decision. It was a personal autonomy decision.
So again, hats off to the messengers, the messaging issue that you talked about, the clip that we played, because they were able to tap into the very thing that made Eugene call up today.
Absolutely. They made it about fetuses and the unborn and the babies who have no voice, and you got to protect, they're so cute, and they have a right to live and breathe and so forth. And because that's compelling to somebody who's compassionate. I am a Christian too. I am a compassionate person, right? And so that's and by the way, using the unborn as your foot soldiers is so convenient because you don't have to feed the unborn. You don't have to see the unborn. You don't have to live with the unborn, right? It's real easy all for the unborn because the minute they come out of utero, they stop these infants, right? So, but the reality here is that we have allowed this to be co-opted as a women's issue, as an abortion issue, as a healthcare issue, when really it's a private autonomy issue.
Well, to his point, though, I didn't have an opportunity to have a say about a child that I helped create. And so therefore, now I will have a say.
You will have a say over everybody else, right?
Yeah.
But you did have a say. You had a say in creating the child in the first place. Right? See, the beef here, and I'm just going to be honest, the beef here in that last caller had was his anger that he couldn't control what his girlfriend did, right? He couldn't control what he did. He could control not having sex with her. But once she got pregnant, he was mad that he didn't have the right to control what she did. That starts from the assumption that he should have control over what she did. And that somehow
Pam, I think there are a lot of men who believe that they should have control.
Well, they should have a say. I wouldn't necessarily argue that they shouldn't have a say, but they want veto power over somebody else's body because it's their seed. far as they know. Because the one thing we know is mama's baby, daddy's maybe.
You better, Maury Povich. You are not the father of that conversation. 866-801-8255. Tina, one of our most dedicated listeners on Twitter said, I need Eugene to come spend a day with my disabled daughter and then say that to our faces. Tina, by the way, is in Texas. She said, this SCOTUS decision means my 25-year-old nonverbal daughter, who isn't cognitively capable of consenting to sex, would be forced to have a baby if she were raped and impregnated.
Exactly right. So Karen, I just emphasize for people that Roe v. Wade is about the balancing between states' rights and individual rights, right? And the reason people truly need to understand this is because America is this interesting balance between federal rights, individual rights, and state rights. Okay. And the federal law gives all Americans the same thing. It is. So if all Americans have a right to free speech, then that is a gift of citizenship. If we have the right to freedom of religion, that's a gift of citizenship. And we are Americans because we all have that right. Right. But if you say, oh, well, in one state, you can be married, but in the next state, you're not married, which is exactly what they want to do with gay marriage. Right? Then all of a sudden, you are not going to be free to travel and be yourself throughout the United States of America, right? You're going to naturally see a segregation of people who agree with a certain mindset and people who don't. And that is why I keep saying on Twitter, what the Supreme Court is trying to do is effectuate a secession through court decision to apartheid our country into those who have freedom of movement and freedom of religion and freedom over themselves and their autonomy in the free states, right? And those who don't in the slave states.
This is like Man in the High Castle meets Handmaid's Tale meets, and I think you're absolutely correct. Legally now this country is going to be a place, because I start off saying I live in Jersey. I'm not worried about this. But what if I want to go visit my mother in North Carolina? I got to drive through some states that may have different laws. Loving versus Virginia. They got married in Maryland where it was legal, came home to Virginia where it was not legal. We're talking about a white man and a black woman, same race, by the way, human, because there's no such thing as whiteness, but it's codified in our books, right? 3/5 compromise and all of the, one drop rule and all that's in our Constitution. So instead, we just heap these amendments on but we should probably rip up the document and start from scratch, because we know better now, don't we, Pam Keith?
I don't know. I don't know that I would necessarily rip it up, because obviously this country is founded on the good and the bad within that document, right? And so I always feel like
do we say that about cancer? Don't we try to get rid of all the cancer and then we give it radiation, some chemotherapy? We don't say let's have a little bit of cancer. Let's keep a little bit of that, because
I'll preface it by saying that I spent a lot of my years outside of this country, in countries that are constantly redoing their constitutions and constantly, look at Egypt. How many times did they rewrite their constitution? How many times did Russia rewrite its constitution to give people power? I'm a little bit squeamish about that, not because I think that the way it's originally written is perfect. It's not by any, or even really good. But it does have a key component in it that I think is critical and truly good. And that is that it embodies the peaceful transition of power and the right of the people to vote, for them to decide who their leaders are going to be rather than the other way. And I'm afraid if we start tinkering with that, the first thing they're going to tinker with is our ability to vote. And
I put up a church finger, Pam. Pam Keith is here. Our ability to vote is determined about where we live. You just mentioned that. Whole state.
No. Technically, the Constitution gives the federal Congress right and control over elections. Federal Congress just didn't act on it. And so if they didn't act on it, they reserved it to the states. And so we could have universal beautifully protected, fantastic voting laws if we had 2 Democrats, Sinema and Manchin, do what they needed to do to pass it by simple majority in Congress. Congress, that is a right reserved to Congress in the Constitution that they just didn't exercise. And that's why we have the cray-cray that we have.
I was going to say, and we still have cray-cray. 866-801-8255. Let me take a couple more calls. Amir in Louisiana, he's a truck driver. He said he's satisfied with the Supreme Court abortion decision. Hi.
Hey, Karen.
Hi. Hey, mother trucker. How you doing? How you doing, Amir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So, yeah, I would tear it up. Personally, I would. But I personally feel that I'm pro-life, but I also believe that.
Wait, hold on. Do you know anyone who's anti-life?
That's anti-life?
Yeah.
Yeah, over the years, man. I just turned 64 on May 1st. But
okay.
I've met
happy belated. I mean, you say you're pro-life as if we aren't all pro. Everybody is for life. Who's not for life, Amir?
But that comes down like there's no 2 fingerprints alike in the world. So, I mean, in that regard, people have different opinions about, that situation, but it's almost like you got to sit on the back of the bus. Okay, we're cool. You cross the Pettus Bridge after the beatdown. Okay, we're cool. So everybody thinks after Roe v. Wade, we're cool. So this is a wake-up call. I'm going to steal my sister's thunder. She said after 100% dissatisfaction brings about 100% change. So therefore, now it's a wake-up call.
So you feel like you're happy this happened because you think people now are going to remove the veil of like complacency and they're going to get up and vote. That's what you think, Amir?
Absolutely. It's the law of nature.
Okay. All right.
It's going to balance regardless. All right. It has to. That's a law of nature.
All right. So Pam, do you agree with him? I'm actually not that optimistic. I feel like
I am perhaps more optimistic than you are. I definitely think that there have been people who live in serious complacency, right? And certainly we have at least one generation, perhaps 2 full generations that don't know life without Roe v. Wade, right? And they are coming into their power right now. So do I think that that's going to have an effect on the election? Absolutely. Is it going to have an effect on turnout? Absolutely. Is it going to be enough? I don't know. But I think this affects a different cadre of people. It's very hard to gerrymander out all young people. You can gerrymander Black people easily because we were redlined and put into communities, and we tend to gravitate towards each other anyway. So it's pretty easy to redline Black people, but it's real hard to redline young people. It's real hard to gerrymander out all white women, and I'm not claiming for a hot second that all white women support choice, but more white women support choice than oppose it.
Well, those pussy hat wearing chicks that showed up after Trump was elected, 54% of them voted for him. So I have no faith in them. Missy Ann, for Missy Ann, slavery would not have lasted as long as it did. Missy Ann was not just complicit, she was an accomplice, and I don't trust her. She can wear a pussy hat.
I agree.
I don't care.
There's plenty who are complicit, but I think, but they're complicit when it hurts someone else, right? I think you might see a little bit different when it hurts them and their autonomy and again, this is more than just birth control. This is, abortion. This is birth control. This is marriage choices. This is how you raise your children. This is personal appearance choices. This is every personal act of autonomy over yourself, including your healthcare, your privacy with your doctor, your privacy in your communications. Like literally, the Alito wrote, and I mean it, he wrote that you don't have right to privacy in your emails because it wasn't a historic right.
Ooh, 866-801-8255. I wonder how they feel about that. No Viagra for you. I doubt that.
Exactly.